This is Dave Douglas for Greenleaf Music and our podcast about music and musicians, A Noise from the Deep. And that's the music of cellist and composer Tomeka Reid. The tune is called Samo Swing, Samo as in Santa Monica. So I talked to Tomeka about her path through Chicago to New York and her place as a master collaborator on the worldwide improvisational music scene. She talks about her background as a cellist and her path to improvisation, as well as ideas about composing and performing, and even more recently, band leading. If you're enjoying these conversations with great musicians, please come join us at greenleafmusic.com. You can subscribe to the podcast and to the label and hear all of what we do. Lots of music and special collaborations. You can also email me directly at podcast@greenleafmusic.com or tweet at me at Dave Douglas. So here's some more Samo Swing and then into the interview with Tomeka Reid. Thanks for listening. Tomeka Reid, thanks so much for visiting with me to talk on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me up here.
Well, it's great hearing this record, which I guess now is a couple of years old, but it's also your first record as a leader, right?
Yes, it is.
After so many years being on the scene and playing with pretty much everybody, right? Roscoe Mitchell and Nicole Mitchell and no relation, and Mike Reid, no relation,
Yes.
and Anthony Braxton and Jeff Parker, and not just Chicago, I'm sure worldwide, right?
Yeah, but I guess for a long time it was mostly Chicago. Yeah.
You feel like that was the way you wanted to do it?
Not necessarily. I still kind of marvel at the fact that I did move to Chicago because I didn't really know about this music so much, and it's just like through my relationship with Nicole Mitchell and just learning about the Velvet Lounge and Fred Anderson and just the ACM and all these things, it just kind of like really opened up my musical world because I moved to, I knew I wanted to play other music besides classical music, but I moved there to get a master's in classical cello, so I was still kind of in that
was at DePaul?
Trajectory. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Master's in classical cello.
Yeah.
Where did you go undergrad?
University of Maryland, College Park. Yeah.
And is that where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from the DC area. Yeah. I'm from the DMV. Yeah.
Wow. So Chicago, what year did you get to Chicago?
In 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a long development period.
Yeah.
When you say you always knew that you wanted to play this other music, you mean improvised music? You mean
just other music besides, I think, classical music specifically. I didn't know. Well, when I was an undergrad, I had listened to some Stuff Smith, so I knew a little bit that there was some strings in jazz, and I had heard of course, like Stefan Grappelli. And then I had a mentor who actually mentioned the Eric Dolphy recording with Ron Carter on it, and then he also mentioned Abdul Wadud. I think I had the Out There recording, but I hadn't heard Abdul Wadud until I moved to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I think he was just kind of like, you should be open to playing other styles of music, and I'm really glad. I mean, I was interested in it just because I also grew up listening to, like, my mom didn't play jazz at home, so it wasn't like I grew up listening to jazz per se. But I liked rock music, I loved Earth, Wind & Fire. I loved strings and pop music, so I was hoping that one day, what was it? I can't remember, Soul to Soul, they had the reggae. I was like, what's this reggae philharmonic? I was really interested in playing other music, besides classical. And then, when I moved to Chicago and just learned about this other, like, jazz, and then how that has so many different, I don't know what the word is, trajectories within it, like
different expressions.
Just in expressions in it. Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah. So then I got involved with, like, I guess, the more open, free, experimental scene.
How did you meet Nicole Mitchell?
Well, I was really obsessed with moving to Chicago. So in 1998, I kind of traded places with my sister, who was at optometry school there. I think I talked about it so much. She ended up going there. But I'm moving to Chicago. But we traded places. She went back to Maryland, and I took her apartment in Chicago. And then I was like, well, I really want to keep playing. So I remember I worked at this movie theater. That was my little job, and then summer job. And then at the movie theater, it was in this building called the Fine Arts Building. And there was a sign there for an orchestra called the Classical Symphony. And I was like, you know what, Tomeka, you should keep playing over the summer and work on your sight reading and blah, blah, blah. So I auditioned for that, and Nikki was in that ensemble.
Oh, wow.
And besides her, there was like maybe 5 other Black people in this orchestra. And I was like, okay, I'm moving to Chicago, because I was always like the only Black person in the orchestra, or like one of 2. So I just was like, oh, there's a lot of, other African-American musicians to play with, or just to know. Yeah. At my undergrad, I think I was the only one until maybe like my senior year. Or there just wasn't many. There were none in the strings until, like my very last year when Robin Faye Massey came. So
that's tough.
So
at least in classical, there's more parity in terms of gender, though, right? There were women.
There were women, but so that was just really impactful for me. So I just
to get in that band and be with people.
So then I was just very clear where I wanted to go once I graduated from undergrad. And so then I reconnected with Nicole when I did that, and then that's when she had me started to play with Black Earth Ensemble.
I must have met her around 2003, and she made a record early on for Greenleaf, and that's when I first heard you, I think, with Black Earth Ensemble.
Okay.
So that would have been that band.
Okay, yeah. So.
Yeah, and you started playing with everybody, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, gradually, I think 2000 I was playing with Nicole, and then 2003 I started playing with Mike Reid with Loose Assembly. And then, I was also in 2003. I became an assistant orchestra director, and then eventually got promoted to an orchestra director at the Lab School, where I was for about 8 years. So I just always made sure that I continued gigging and playing with people, even though I had like basically a job for life that I ended up leaving in 2011. But,
the orchestra director job.
Yeah, I could have just kind of stayed there, but I don't know. I just knew that I wanted something else, I guess.
You have a lot more to say.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great job, and I got to do some arranging for the kids there, and it was cool. But yeah, I wanted to do more, and so I left that in 2011, and then just started. That's when I think I started playing with more people. Still, mostly, I would say, in the Chicago scene, but.
But you developed into a composer and improviser, and pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that one of the premises of ACM is they really encourage you to compose. And actually, it's crazy. When I was younger, I composed a lot more. Like, I remember I would just run home every day in junior high school, and like I had this one keyboard, and I would just like record. I don't know, make a lot of music. But then I kind of stopped. I think when I started taking theory in high school because it was like there were all these rules, and I felt like, oh, I'm not a composer because I'm not writing this kind of music. And same thing happened in college, so it wasn't really until I got back to Chicago and like people just saying, just write.
Well, I think when you're playing with people, it changes the game because it's real.
Yeah, yeah. And then just seeing that their compositions, and it's like, oh, I can still compose. It doesn't have to be a symphony or a fugue. I felt like the
Samo swing.
Yeah, just whatever. So
well, grooves, but it seems like from the circle in Chicago, playing music influenced by all kinds of stuff, pop music, like you said.
Yeah.
Funk and hip hop and
everything.
Free improv and you name it, and jazz, modern jazz and older jazz.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the most interesting things about the Chicago scene. Seen from the outside, I'm a New Yorker, but it just feels like you were playing with everybody there, and then suddenly you were presenting these compositions that we're talking about from this record.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely Nicole and this great vocalist, Dee Alexander, definitely were like, you should put a record out. You should get your compositions out. And I would say Mike Reid was encouraging of that too. He played my very first gig I did. It was me, Mike, and Matsuna Roberts playing these pieces. Yeah.
Is that recorded?
No, I don't. Well, I don't. Maybe I didn't think to do so. I should have. But yeah, it was my first gig at the Velvet Lounge, and Mike was like, "Yeah, these are nice pieces. You should keep writing." So I was like, "Okay." And then
did you have much interaction with Fred Anderson?
I did. I mean, I spoke to him. I would say I used to be super shy, so I didn't talk to him a ton. But we did have some interactions, and I remember in 2009 we did this concert in Pisa because I did a piece I got asked to do a large ensemble piece in tribute to Fred Anderson, and I remember we were in Pisa, and he was like, "Yeah, Tomeka, I think I don't know where we talked for about an hour, and I think we walked, I don't know where we walked from, but back to the hotel or something." And I remember him just it was just a moment. I'm just so grateful. I think back to that moment that we got to just talk about music, and he was just very encouraging because the following year he passed is why I think of it.
Wow.
But I felt like that was my one little big
Well, sometimes when you get out of town on a gig is when you finally get to have those moments with people.
Yeah, and I think he was always super supportive and encouraging, because there were many moments where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I feel so uncomfortable, and just being a shy person and watching people kind of see you work things out on stage was just not a part of my, I don't know, just kind of freaked me out a little bit. So he was just always like, just keep going, just keep practicing, just keep listening, just keep playing as much as possible.
That's great.
So I like to think that I did
lucky
that.
to have those people in your life, right?
Yeah.
So this piece, The Lone White, from the quartet record, sort of featuring Mary Halverson, right?
Yeah.
So how do you?
I wrote that piece when I was doing a residency in Santa Monica, California, at 18th Street Arts, and I think it was just kind of like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of personal, but I think it was just kind of like the lone weight of trying to find someone, just being a female in this music and being busy and traveling and not being able to find partners that understand your lifestyle, and that you're just trying to do your thing. You're just trying to play music. It's nothing against them. It's not like you don't want to be with them, but you need to practice, and you tour, and you're not trying to do anything but that. So I think that's kind of actually, that is where that comes from. Just like just the lone wait, just waiting.
That really puts it in context that I hadn't imagined when I listened to it.
Yeah,
beautiful. Let me play a little bit of that.
Okay.
own weight. Mary Halverson, Jason Rebke, and Toma Fujiwara.
Yeah, Toma Fujiwara.
Long-standing quartet?
I guess it is. It is, quote unquote, now. I guess. Yeah, I guess we did that 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
So.
But you're still playing together?
Yeah. We're still.
There's something new in the works, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Just tell me a little bit about that.
I had a small composer's residency at Roulette, and so I had to come up with some new music. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write new music for the quartet, because I had intended to do so. I hadn't intended for it to be so long of a gap, but it's just with all the traveling and doing all these different things. It's for me. I'm not someone that can easily compose on the road. I mean, sometimes I come up with some ideas, but
I'm the same.
So it was.
I know how that is.
Yeah, it's been hard actually to write for a lot of things, but so I had that opportunity, and I used that to write new music for the quartet that'll come out this summer. So I'm excited for that.
What's the name of the new record?
I haven't come up with a name for it yet.
Wow.
Yeah,
But
I guess
it's
I should
coming
do
out
that.
soon, though. Yeah, you might want to have a name.
Yeah, that's true.
The last one was just called Tomeka Reid Quartet.
Yeah.
So, and it's on Thirsty Ear. So you can't use that same title.
No,
I'm
I know.
sad to inform you.
I know. I have the artwork actually that together, but yeah, I guess I should.
And this one's on cuneiform.
Yes.
From your hometown, right?
I know. Well, that's what I thought was.
Does that connection go way back?
No, but I thought when I was thinking about labels, I was like, when I realized that I think he's on the same street as Blair High School, where my sister went to high school, and where I went to, where I started playing cello, actually, at Oakview Elementary. It's like the same area. So that's where I really felt this connection in that way. Because, that's where I started playing cello.
But also, it's such a great label, and they were in danger for a minute there, and now they're back going strong.
Yeah, I think they're just scaling back certain things or just configuring some of their operations. But
good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
You were saying, I can imagine like that you didn't expect so much time to go from between the first record and the second record, and you're just traveling all the time.
Yeah.
Mostly, and I think the word side musician is kind of wrong in your case. It's more like collaborator, co-conspirator, because you do a lot of projects that are like co-led here and now.
Yeah, Artifacts
with Maz
Trio.
Swift and Sylvia Bolognese.
Yeah.
Artifacts Trio with Nicole Reid and Nicole Reid. Here we go. Nicole Mitchell and Mike Reid.
Yeah.
And the duo with Filippo Monaco. And it seems like whenever I talk to you, there's like, oh yeah, I was in Ethiopia, and then I was in Stockholm, and then I was in Missouri, and then I was in, and that's I think that's really interesting because from the standpoint of being a composer and band leader, it takes a lot of energy to keep all that other stuff where you want it to be. I mean, I know you're not doing any projects half.
Try not to.
I mean, I had the luck to be able to invite you into one of my projects, and you're clearly giving 115%, and it's just, you're there, and it's so wonderful as a composer, and this as a band leader, when you find a band that's really down to dig in and go deep. That makes it, I think that's the part that makes it worthwhile, like who you're collaborating with. That kind of, even though my schedule has been really nonstop busy, what makes it easier is the people that I'm playing with, their energies, their attitudes, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm a part of this, I like being a part of this history. I like what I learn. I like the stories that I learn from doing all of this, and that's inspiring. I joke and say that a lot of these experiences, stories are what I'll be telling other people's grandchildren. So I don't know if I will be having kids, but you never know. But it's just I like
all the experiences and the food and even some of the. I don't like it when my cello gets damaged, but just some of the trials. It's
you writing these things down. You have a journal.
I have since actually that was a thing since I moved to New York. I've been That was one of the things I wanted to do. I'm journaling this whole experience. So
wow.
Sometimes I miss a few days, but I've been the most consistent since I was a kid, actually, of journaling.
Wow.
What's been happening?
So how soon are we going to get the history book?
Oh, that I don't know, but I definitely have been trying to document these things, and even just seeing things I thought about a year ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so crazy, Tomeka. But yeah, no, I feel really blessed with everything that's been happening. It is, there are moments where I'm just like, I need to find some time to, R&R, self-care is real important.
And I feel like composing is like that too. For me, at least, I have to sort of step away from everything.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear, because sometimes I'm like, when I do get into it, I'm just like, but I need to keep practicing because I have these gigs.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
But it's like, when I do compose, it's just kind of like, that's all I'm doing. Like that quartet piece I wrote.
The string quartet.
It was just like, I just had like 2 weeks. I'm like, I got to get this done.
You had 2 weeks to write that?
Well, no, I had more time, but just because of my travel, it's just like, I got to get this.
It's a pretty substantial piece.
Yeah.
Prospective Dwellers is what it's called, and you wrote it for Spectral Quartet,
Yeah.
Chicago-based string quartet.
Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, they're a great ensemble, and it was really fun writing the piece. I actually took some of the material I had written for a group I call my string tet, and I took one of the pieces I really liked and developed it further, and that's what that piece is.
Are you working on paper, or how do you develop ideas like that?
Well, I sing a lot and record myself.
Wow.
Because I'm not a composer that's really quick at writing fast, or in the computer. It's just I'm super slow. But yeah, I'll sing all the parts and write that down.
You sing them like into your iPhone, or
GarageBand?
You sing them into GarageBand,
Yeah.
like with a microphone.
No, I just get close to it. I should use a microphone, but I just
with the computer. Well, if it sounds good enough and it's working for you, then
and then I'll hear things when I listen back to that.
And do you multi-track yourself when you're
Yeah.
singing? So you like listen to the first track and then you're laying in the second one.
Yeah. I'll hear things as I'm coming up with that, or I just use my phone to try so I don't forget ideas.
Wow. And then when you listen back, are they useful?
Sometimes not. But
it's never once worked for me. Like, I'd say half a dozen times maybe I've tried to like sing an idea that I thought was really great into my phone, and then I listen back later and I'm like, what the?
No, I mean, for me, it's been really useful because, again, I feel like I've actually, some of my journal entries, I've been toying with this idea of speaking it, because I can't write fast enough, or my handwriting's kind of sloppy. So sometimes I can't read even what I wrote. So sometimes I will just record myself talking. Which I also think, well, maybe that'll be cool when I'm older. I might want to hear what I sounded like. I don't know.
As long as the formats don't all, disappear.
True. But
but that's how you put together the string quartet, was singing
parts.
Singing
some parts, and then some parts I did play on cello. Like it's a combination of the two, and then
that's great.
Some piano, but I'm not a very skilled.
But then after you're done figuring out what you want, then you write it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a long process.
It's a long process. That's hard work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe the transcribing your own layered constructions might not be so hard because you created each of the voices, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just the method that works for me.
That's so cool.
So.
All right, let's hear a little Prospective Dwellers. That's amazing. I talk to a lot of composers about how they work, and everybody is different. I mean, I would say maybe the one constant is, like you're saying, you have to withdraw a little bit. You have to sort of only do that for a minute.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're singing all of that into GarageBand and then transcribing it and figuring out how to notate for the strings. I mean, there's also like extended techniques in there and unusual timbres and the interaction of the band sounds very improvised, right? Is there improvisation?
Yeah, in that
there?
string quartet, it's just they might be doing more improvisation now, but definitely at that time, I was like, okay, I want some harmonics over there. I told them like kind of which pitches a little bit, but I'm like, you have fun with it, you know. Just
you didn't want to put them in handcuffs.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah, I knew I wanted the texture of the harmonics, but I wanted violins to have more full autonomy to play them. That way they can be different at each time too.
Well, and also they're the kind of band that are willing to
experience that.
You know, try different things and see how it works.
Yeah. So
does the way that the kind of improvisation you ask them to do differ in different areas of your writing?
Wait a minute, say that again.
Well, maybe to clarify the question, when you're writing for improvisers, which it seems like most of the composing you do is for improvisers, do you temper what you're writing based on who the improvisers are and how you want them to play?
Sometimes, but I really just I like to feel like I just kind of give some framework and allow them to, because I know what they can do to embellish upon it. If I do hear a certain sonic palette that I'd like them to stick with, then I will give that indication.
Yeah, I find like a lot of your tunes on the quartet, I'm talking about Tomeka Reid quartet now, on that record, like your tunes, you're really good at like sort of setting a vibe, like creating an atmosphere and a sort of a
launching point, or
like a way of a way of feeling that's a launching point.
Okay.
For a band.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And you have this piece called Billy Bang's Bounce that I really love, and I also loved Billy Bang. Did you have a special interaction with him?
I got to meet him briefly at the Hot House, what was my first job in Chicago. And I always hoped that I would get it together enough so that maybe I could play with him one day. But as we know, he transitioned many years ago. But I don't know, I just loved his playing style and how it was just kind of like, this is who I am. You know, I didn't feel like he was trying to be anything else but himself in his playing. And it was just like definitely all the sweetness, the harshness. I mean, everything is in there. So, and I feel like I try to do that in my own playing, because it's like we are multifaceted individuals and we're not always happy. Sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're angry, sometimes we're excited, So I feel like he has all that in his playing, and so this was just kind of my tribute to him.
Do you feel like a special kinship as a string player? Like that what he did had special resonance for you because it was on a violin?
Yeah, I think so, because I can, I don't know, hear it more because it is a string player. It's kind of like, I imagine that, a trumpet player might, you really hear Roy Eldridge, or you really hear, you can hear certain things that may be quicker that maybe I wouldn't pick up so much on because I play cello or any other.
Or maybe just, because the method of tone production
the timbre,
is similar.
Yeah. So
you felt that with Billy Bang.
Yeah.
And with Abdul Wadud, you mentioned.
Certainly, yeah.
Anybody else?
I mean, there's so many people I just enjoy listening to.
Yeah. Okay, well, I won't make you name names then. Let's hear this Billy Bang's Bounce.
Okay.
that's Billy Bang's Bounce. It's from the Tomeka Reid Quartet record with Mary Halverson and Jason Rebke and Toma Fujiwara on Thirsty Ear. And Tomeka, you were talking about string players and writing for improvisers and non-improvisers and just different ways of developing relationships between being a leader and being a collaborator and being a side musician. And so now you have this project with, I think, two people who sort of maybe function as mentors for you, Nicole Mitchell and Mike Reid.
Yeah.
So it's an Artifacts trio.
Yeah.
And it's just out now, right?
Well, no, that record actually came out in 2015.
Oh, okay.
We basically,
I
that
hadn't
group.
heard it. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. Basically, that group came about because it was during the year of the 50th anniversary of the AACM, and because of my traveling schedule, I wasn't able to play in any of the. I was able to play at the large ensemble concert that they had, but most of the events that they had scheduled, I just couldn't make, and so I wanted to do my own kind of tribute to the AACM because I do feel really blessed to be a part of the organization, and I feel like it's opened a lot of avenues for me to engage with music and just to meet so many people. So I wanted to show my appreciation. So I had two things I decided to do. One was I was for many years I was a big band director at the Vancouver Jazz Festival, and so for that concert I wanted to make sure that I programmed all AACM music so the students. I mean, part of the premise of that is for them to get more experience with experimental music and just other things besides just playing regular standard big band charts that they're probably going to get in their high school programs. So for that concert, I definitely did all AACM program, and then I was thinking Artifacts Trio. Well, I didn't have a name for it. Actually, Mike named the group, but I was like, Nikki and Mike have been inspirational, and they have been mentors to me, and so it was kind of like my paying my tribute to them as well. And I was like, hey, you guys, would you guys consider doing this? I had this gig in Seattle at forget what that Earshot Earshot festival, and I was like, hey, would you guys like to do this gig, and we can it can be like our AACM tribute, out in the West Coast, since the ACM is also trying to have, lots of, concerts all over the country and stuff, in the world if possible. So they were down with that, and then we were trying to figure out, what we would play, and then that's when we thought about, okay, we'll play ACM composers.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how that came about, that developed. And so, that record came out in 2015. It's the same thing as far as like self-titled or Artifacts Trio. That was the name of the record. Yeah. And so then this past January, we recorded the second recording for this ensemble, and in this one we do have our originals. So we each contributed some original material. So
it's still AACM composers.
Yeah, it is still AACM composers. But and so we have that in mixture. Like I think we have I know we have a Muhal tune on there. Yeah, we have some other.
Who else is on the first record? What composers? I know there's an Anthony Braxton.
Yeah, we have
piece.
Braxton tune. We have a Roscoe tune. We have an Amina Claudine-Myers tune. We have a Leroy Jenkins tune. Wow. I think we also have a Muhal, Monk to Monk is on there.
And you're living in New York, but do you still feel like, are you a member of the AACM still?
Yeah, I mean, I am.
Of course, you feel the kinship, but in terms of an organization and people get spread out all over the world, I mean, it still has great importance to you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Do you play with George Lewis?
I haven't had much opportunity to play with George, no. I've played with Braxton and with Roscoe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I'm a member of the art ensemble, or I'm a guest of the art ensemble, rather.
You're a guest in the art ensemble of Chicago? Yeah. I didn't know that. That's kind of big news. Yeah, you're sort of burying the headline here. Oh. So how long has that been happening?
Since 2017.
Oh my God, where have I been? Hiding under a rock. That's great. So it's Don.
Yeah, Don
Moyer.
Moyer and Famoudou Don Moyer and Roscoe Mitchell.
And Junius Paul.
Yeah, Junius Paul. So there's a bunch of names. Cherie.
Was Hugh Reagan doing the trumpet work for a while?
Yeah, Hugh Reagan's doing that.
Yeah.
Sharibu Shahid's doing it.
Sharibu,
Dudu Koyate. The larger ensemble, Roscoe wants to have an expanded ensemble. So we have Eddie Kwan on viola, Gene Cook on violin, myself on cello, Sylvia Bolognesi, Junius Paul, Sharibu on basses, Moye and Dudu on percussion.
Mm-hmm.
Roscoe, Hugh Reagan, Fred Berry and Nicole Mitchell on horns, and Christina Wheeler is doing some electronics.
Wow!
So yeah, it's a pretty big group
project.
Yeah, it's fun.
Is there a recording of that?
Yes, we did record in the fall, and I think that's supposed to be released.
Oh, it's not out yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're playing big years, so I'm not sure this year. So I'm not sure if it's going to be released for that or when that's coming out. Yeah.
Yet another project of yours.
Yeah. Well,
so
let's
play a little bit of Artifacts Trio. What piece should we play?
You can play the Braxton. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Composition 23B.
By Anthony Braxton. So that's Artifacts Trio, the record from a few years ago, and there's a new record of original compositions coming out. Tomeka, thank you so much for coming up here. Yeah. How do people find you?
You can go to tomekareid.net. I also have a Facebook page.
Oh, really?
Music page. Yeah, and... Yeah, I'm around.
I see you on Twitter. Chelicita is your Twitter handle.
Yeah, I don't
right?
really. I don't tweet as much. I feel like I should.
So everybody tweet your questions to Tomeka.
Yeah, then I'll get on Twitter. And I have an Instagram, but that's Chelicita as well. But yeah, as I have said, have cello will travel. So
you're traveling a lot. Do you have a cello that you feel is like a safe to travel with instrument?
I need to get one. I have a loaner right now.
But you're checking it in under the plane, right?
I know.
You're not.
This one. I need to figure out that situation because my cello got damaged in August, and I've been using a loaner since then.
Wow.
Yeah, because
Did you ever do a tour where you got the promoters to provide a cello, or would that be too dangerous?
Well, in the instances where my cello didn't arrive, the instruments provided usually aren't of the quality that I need them to be, or they don't have the pickups on that I need.
Right.
Because most cello players, even though there are a lot of cello players that use pickups, but it's still not real common like it is with the bass. I think that's easier to come by. So it's just easier for me to travel with my own instrument. Fortunately and unfortunately, because it's just kind of I have to figure out. I'm trying to figure out another solution because I can't.
It's nerve-wracking to check it in.
It's nerve-wracking, and people, agents, they don't totally. I don't know. It just depends on the agent, often of how kind they will be with the cello.
You mean at the airlines?
At the airline, yeah. It's some people don't know what it is, or I'm noticing now that. TSA, they're just really searching the whole instrument because I can tell by where the zipper is, where I leave it, and where it is. So I'm just like, I'm not sure if they're taking it out and then like, oops, I dropped it. Like it's really, and
Right.
sometimes
Hey, look at this fancy guitar.
or something, and it's just it's scary, really. It's just kind of frightening, because sometimes you can get to check go with them for while they're checking the instrument
Yeah.
when you're leaving out. But if I'm trying to make sure I get direct flights, but if you don't, then
Right.
whoever's checking that next place, you don't know what the heck they're doing. And that's what happened with me, I think, in Austria. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the heck happened. Of like a big hole on the rib of the cello.
Really?
So you have to take the top off, and it's just and you have to figure out all the pieces, and it's just a mess. So I need to figure out what to do. I'm using a carbon fiber that I'm getting more used to. It's not wood, so that feels weird, but I'm getting more used to it, and I'm thinking
And it's safer to fly with, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of maybe for things that I can't get a seat for, then I might just use that, because it's just, it's expensive, because nobody wants to also pay for that repair.
Well, but also, I've also been on tours where the person has the extra seat for the instrument, and then they cause problems. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you can't bring
put it
that
here.
on.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I have a seat for Mr. Cello.
Right.
And it's like, but we have
That's been an issue. Or they'll make you sit all the way at the back of the plane by the toilet, where you may not
My
want
funniest one was that they got really angry because they had a meal for Mr. Cello.
Right.
And there was no Mr. Cello who was going to eat it, and then they wouldn't give it to the human.
Which is ridiculous,
But,
because if you pay for the seat, you should get the overhead bin space.
Logic doesn't
everything.
always dictate what happens.
So it just depends on people's understanding.
Well, you are traveling all around the world, so I'm sure you're going to get that figured out.
Yeah,
and playing all kinds of music, and we're going to be touring together.
Yes.
Doing this piece, Engage, and I thought I would just like selfishly slip in a little bit of that at the end, and you sound great on it. Thank you so much for talking to me about your music. It was so great to get to hear it all. Yeah. And we'll be playing soon.
Yes.
Thanks, Tomeka.
Looking forward to it.